Madame Lan was also a little curious, but after thinking about it, she understood. Luo Shui probably wanted to make the injuries on her body more serious so that it would be more convincing. It had to be said that Luo Shui's ruthlessness was very similar to when she was young. Since it was a scheme to make her suffer, she naturally had to make it more realistic. Therefore, Madame Lan did not come out to stop her. She only said indifferently, "Little ninth girl, Luo Shui, both of you stop. If you have something to say it properly." Although Manager Luo was somewhat puzzled by the sudden change in Yun Chujia's style, she was certain in her heart that Miss Ninth had her own arrangements. She only needed to watch the show, so she did not move. Thus, Lan Luoxue was miserable. She was clearly beaten by Yun Chujio until her internal organs were in extreme pain, but she could not move at all. Moreover, she could not say a word. She could only be kicked by Yun Chujio, who was living a life worse than death. Yun Chujio was very smart. She did not kick Lan Luox's face at all. She specifically kicked at the vulnerable parts of her body. She kicked until she was high, and she kicked for almost an hour. Madame Lan finally realized that something was wrong. No matter how much Luo Shui could endure, she should not have not said a word. Could it be that she was kicked to death by Yun Chujio? When Madame Lan thought of this, she suddenly jumped into the courtyard and reached out her hand to slap Yun Chujio. Yun Chujio dodged to the side and turned on the recording stone, then she said with grief and indignation, "Io, it hurts so much. Madame Lan, you actually bullied the weak. You actually hit me." Madame Lan did not have the time to pay attention to her. Seeing that Lan Luoxue was fine, she was relieved. Luoxue, how are you?" Lan Luoxue suddenly cried out in pain. It hurts so much. It hurts so much. Mother, that bitch Yun Chujio hit me so hard that it hurts. Moreover, it was as if I was under a spell just now. I couldn't speak or move. She must have poisoned me. Please help me take revenge quickly and capture her. I want to tear her into pieces. Madame Lan frowned. She was a little hesitant. Was Luoxue acting or real? No matter what, the fact that Yun Chujio hit Luoxue was already confirmed. Since that was the case, let's make this matter bigger. Madame Lan gave a signal to the maid beside her. The maid removed the protective array in the courtyard. Just as Madame Lan was about to berate Yun Chujio for beating up Lan Luoxue, she saw Yun Chujio smiling at her mysteriously. Madame Lan's heart skipped a beat. Then, she heard Yun Chujio howl, "Madame Lan, Sister Luo Shui, I've already apologized to you. Why are you still beating me up? Manager Luo, save me." Before Madame Lan could react, she saw Yun Chujio mess up her hair. She even rolled on the ground a few times. There was even some blood on the side of her mouth. She looked at her provocatively. Manager Luo was also a shrewd person. When he saw Yun Chujio doing this, he immediately raised his voice and said, "Madame Lan. Madame Lan, let's talk nicely. Please don't hit me." Madame Lan finally understood that the two of them were prepared to retaliate. She shouted angrily, "Shut up." It was clearly Yun Chujio who hit Luo Shui. "When did I hit Yun Chujio?" Yun Chujio did not wait for her to finish speaking and rushed out of the courtyard. "Help! Help! Help! Murder! Auntie, uncle, help! Madame Lan wants to kill me." Manager Luo immediately cooperated and shouted, "Miss Chiu, run quickly. This servant will help you stop Madame Lan." This chapter is a preview. If you want to see a faster and more up-to-date chapter, please visit for more content. Madame Lan looked at the backs of Yun Chujio and Manager Luo and was so angry that she almost fainted. She quickly asked Lan Luoxue in a low voice, "Luoxue, are you all right? Let's go see your uncle, the palace master, in case that bitch Yun Chujio sues us first." Lan Luoxue was in so much pain that her clothes were almost soaked in sweat. She screamed, "Mother, I'm in so much pain. I'm really in so much pain." Only then did Madame Lan realize that Lan Luoxue was not acting. She quickly checked her pulse, but she did not find anything wrong. Even though Yun Chujia's kick was not light, it did not cause any substantial damage to her internal organs, it was just a flesh wound. "Luoxue, there's nothing wrong with your body." "Mother, I'm telling the truth. There's not a part of my body that isn't in pain. I'm in so much pain. Mother, that bitch Yun Chujio must have poisoned me. Please take me to the temple master's uncle." When Madame Lan saw Lan Luoxue say that, she immediately became anxious and quickly got the two maids to carry Lan Luoxue to the living room. Di Linhan and the palace lord's wife had just gotten rid of their misunderstanding, and were in the middle of their sweet moment when a maid reported from outside, "Palace lord, Madam, Lady Jiu was beaten up by Madame Lan and is crying in the living room." "What? That bitch actually dared to hit little Jiu?" The palace lord's wife was immediately enraged and she stood up in a flash. Di Linhan said with slight displeasure, "Jin Sei. Watch your words are so vulgar, how is that proper? The matter has not been investigated properly, do not jump to conclusions. Fourth junior sister has always been reasonable, why would she hit little Jiu?" The palace lord's wife was so angry that she gritted her teeth, but when she thought of Yun Chujia's instructions, she could only say coldly, "Then go and see what is going on. Let's get straight to the point. If it was really your good junior sister who hit little Jiu, I will not be polite to her." Di Linhan paused for a moment and then said, "Little Jiu has always been mischievous, it must be her who is causing trouble again. Junior sister is an elder, how could she hit little Jiu? Let's go and see what is going on." The two of them had not even reached the entrance of the living room when they saw quite a number of servants gathered outside, seeing Di Linhan and the lady of the hall coming over. One after another, they said, "Hall master, lady of the hall master, although there are some things that we should not say, but that Lady Lan has gone too far." The ninth young miss was clearly there to apologize, but she actually chased after the ninth young miss and beat her up. If it wasn't for manager Luo stopping her, the ninth young miss might have lost her life. That's right, we all heard the ninth miss miserable screams and even saw the ninth miss escape from the guest house in a sorry state. That Madame Lan is really too much. That's right, the ninth miss went to apologize so sincerely, but she actually almost lost her life. How pitiful. The ninth miss was almost crying until she couldn't breathe. The lady of the palace hall could not contain her anger, Chu Lingyun has really gone too far. Husband, do you still want to defend her? Jin Sei, don't be anxious. Let's go in and take a look at little ninth's situation before we discuss what to do. Di Linhan had initially not believed it in his heart, but when he heard so many people saying that, he immediately began to believe it a little, he was very displeased. Fourth junior sister, no matter how wrong little ninth was, she was still your junior, and you actually wanted to kill her. This was too much. Although the palace master's wife wished she could go and settle the score with Madame Lan right away, she was more worried about Yun Chujio. Thus, she rushed into the guest hall and saw Yun Chujio sitting there crying with disheveled hair. She was crying pitifully and was out of breath, it was as if she was going to faint at any moment. This chapter is a preview, if you want to see a faster and more up-to-date chapter, please visit for more content. The lady of the hall was so heartbroken that she almost pulled herself into a ball. She immediately ran over and asked, Little Jiu, are you all right?" The lady of the hall immediately saw the blood stain on the side of Yun Chujia's mouth, she was immediately enraged, "Damn it. Di Linhan, I must kill that slut Chu Lingyun today. I have not even touched a single finger of little Jiu, and she actually beat little Jiu until she vomited blood. She is really courting death." When Di Linhan saw Yun Chujia's pitiful little appearance, his heart ached and he couldn't contain his anger. Fourth junior sister, you really shouldn't have done this. No matter how much little Gio went overboard, you shouldn't have done this to little Gio on account of my face. You really don't put me in your eyes. Moreover, little Gio was there to apologize to you. It's fine if you don't forgive her, but why did you have to do this? No wonder Jean S.E. kept saying that you had an evil heart. Looks like I had really misjudged you. Jean say, don't be agitated. Don't worry, if fourth junior sister really did something wrong, I will definitely seek justice for little Gio. Men. Go and invite Madame Lan and Miss Lan over. Di Linhan said with a dark expression. When the palace mistress heard Di Linhan say that, she calmed down a little. She asked Yun Chujio with concern, Little Gio, are your injuries serious? Did you take any pills to stop the bleeding? Don't worry, Aunt will make the decision for you. Manager Luo, what crime should you commit? Are you just going to watch little Gio get beaten up? Yun Chujio quickly said with a twitch, Aunt, please don't blame Manager Luo. After all, Madame Lan is a guest and it would not be good for her to make a move. Moreover, if she had not stopped me, Madame Lan would have really killed me. Woo, Aunt, I have never suffered such a huge loss before. If it wasn't for the fact that I was afraid that Uncle would be unhappy, I would have released my spiritual power to kill her long ago. But Aunt, you had already reprimanded me this morning and I couldn't not give Uncle some face, so I endured it. Woo, Aunt, the word endure is like a knife on the head. My heart is so uncomfortable. Wah. The more Yun Chujio spoke, the more sad she became. After that, she began to wail loudly. Di Linhan's old face turned green and then white. Yun Chujio's words seemed to have cut his heart. The veins on his forehead were bulging and the anger in his heart had reached its peak. It was at this moment that Madame Lan arrived with Lan Luoxue. The moment Madame Lan entered the living room, she immediately said angrily, Senior brother, Jean say, all of you must stand up for me. Yun Chujio kept saying that she was going to apologize to me, but she actually beat up Luoxue to such a state. How outrageous. Lan Luoxue was supported down from the soft couch by two handmaidens, crying as she said, Palace Lord Uncle, you have to stand up for Luoxue, Yun Chujio beat me up so badly. Di Linhan's brows were tightly knitted together as he said in a cold voice, Fourth junior sister, you said that little Gio had beaten up Luoxue? Then why did little Gio have to describe herself in such a sorry state? And the servants all said at the same time that it was you who had beaten her up. Madame Lan gave a wry laugh, Senior brother, these servants are all from the Palace of Immortals and they naturally speak the same words as Yun Chujio. Yun Chujio had merely acted out a show and the real victim was my Luoxue. Look at how much pain she has been in. It must be Yun Chujio who poisoned her. Senior brother, now that things have come to this, I don't want any justice. I only hope that on account of the relationship between senior brother and sister, you can ask Yun Chujio to give me the antidote. We mother and daughter will immediately leave the Temple of Immortals. We will never step foot into the Temple of Immortals again. This chapter is a preview. If you want to see a faster and more up-to-date chapter, please visit for more content. Di Linhan's brows were tightly knitted together. He knew that Yun Chujio and Madame Lan must have been lied to, but who was the one who was lying? Manager Luo, tell me, what exactly is going on? If there is even the slightest falsehood, I will not forgive you. Di Linhan turned to look at Manager Luo. Manager Luo had already boarded the pirate ship and naturally would not dig a hole for herself. Thus, he said, reporting to the hall master, after Ninth Miss and I arrived at the living room, Ninth Miss said that she was here to apologize and asked Madame Lan and Miss Lan if they would forgive her. I didn't expect that Miss Lan would actually make Ninth Miss kneel down and apologize to her. Moreover, she even said that Ninth Miss was a trash from the Qing Xian continent and would always be a slut. Although Ninth Miss was furious, she still said that she would give her a chance to apologize on account of you, Hall Master. However, not only did Miss Lon not apologize, she even insulted Ninth Miss even more excessively, saying that Ninth Miss was a bitch with a mother but no mother. The ninth young miss could not take it anymore and kicked Miss Lon. She then said that if Miss Lon apologized immediately, she would not pursue the matter. However, Miss Lon continued to curse and the ninth young miss kicked Miss Lon a few more times. Furthermore, she did not use her spiritual power. She only kicked her a few times. She did not expect that Madame Lon would suddenly give the ninth young miss a slap. The ninth young miss did not expect that Madame Lon would make a move and was immediately thrown out. Seeing that it was not good, this servant hurriedly tried to dissuade Madame Lon. The ninth miss then took the opportunity to run out. This is what happened. What I said is true, and I don't dare to hide anything. Yun Chujio gave manager Luo 32 likes in her heart. No wonder she became the old witch's confidant. The cleverness of her words was almost as good as hers, so she had to help. Therefore, this guy wiped his tears with his sleeve. Uncle-in-law, manager Luo is right. If Lon Luoxue didn't press on step by step, would I have made a move? But I really only lightly kicked her a few times. I didn't even use my spiritual power. If any of my words are false, let the heavenly lightning strike me to death. Madame Lon was so angry that she gritted her teeth. She said angrily, "Senior brother, don't listen to their nonsense." Yun Chujio said that she was going to apologize, but in reality, when she arrived at the guest house, she opened her mouth and shut her mouth to insult us. Luo Shui didn't like it, so she got angry and argued with her. I didn't expect Yun Chujio to hit Luo Shui. At first, I only advised her and didn't intend to interfere. However, I didn't know what kind of poison Yun Chujio used. Luo Shui couldn't speak or move. Yun Chujio had not stopped kicking her. That was why I had forced Yun Chujio to retreat. I had not hit her at all. Her hair had been messed up by herself. The dirt on her body had also been rolled up by her. As for the blood at the side of her mouth, I did not know what kind of blood it was. Senior, we have known each other for so many years. Don't you understand me? Am I such a vicious person? Di Linhan was put in a difficult position. Yun Chujio had manager Luo's testimony, and Lon Luoxue on Madame Lan's side looked to be in so much pain that her entire body was trembling. He was unable to differentiate between Yun Chujio and Madame Lon who was lying at that moment. Madame Lon saw Di Linhan in such a manner and said angrily, "Senior brother, this matter is very easy to differentiate. Find an elder who is proficient in medical skills to come over and see who is really injured between Yun Chujio and Luo Shui. That will be able to prove who is lying." All right. Men. Go and invite Elder Su over. Di Linhan said in a deep voice. He was feeling very anxious in his heart. One of the two sides must be lying. To make a fool out of me like this is really too much. If I find out who is lying, I will definitely not let her off. This chapter is a preview. If you want to see a faster and more up-to-date chapter, please visit for more content. A moment later, Elder Su walked into the living room. Elder Su, go and check the injuries of Luo Shui and Little Jiu. You must report the truth, or else they will not be spared. Di Linhan said in a deep voice. Yes. Elder Su walked to Yun Chujio's side first. Ninth Miss, please extend your right hand. Yun Chujio blinked her eyes and extended her right hand. Elder Su took her pulse and said, reporting to the Palace Lord, the Palace Lord's wife, there is nothing abnormal about ninth young Miss body. The Palace Lord's wife's heart trembled. It was over. Could it really be that Little Jiu was lying? Little Jiu, oh Little Jiu, this time your cleverness might have been mistaken. What Ling Han hated the most was being lied to. Moreover, this matter had blown up to such a big extent, I am afraid that I would not be able to protect you. I can only slowly wait for Ling Han to calm down before I can help you plead for mercy. Di Linhan's expression had indeed turned gloomy as he looked at Yun Chujio with a heavy gaze. Little Jiu lass, didn't you say that fourth junior sister had slapped you? Why is your body fine? Yun Chujio said innocently, Uncle, Madame Lan had indeed slapped me, but I had consumed a medicinal pill, so my injuries have recovered. Is this really that strange? Nonsense. Even if you had taken a pill, there would still be traces of it. Elder Su, you were able to detect that you had suffered internal injuries, you are just trying to deny it. Little Jiu girl, I have always had a good impression of you, I think you are smart and intelligent, and you have a kind heart. I did not think that you would actually use such a small trick to frame someone, and even make a fool out of me, you have really disappointed me. You should pack up your things and return to the Tian Yuan Academy. Di Linhan said angrily, the veins on his forehead were popping up, and he was clearly very angry. Although the lady of the hall master had the intention to plead for mercy, but she knew that pleading for mercy now would only add fuel to the fire. She could only give Yun Chujio a look, meaning to wait for a while before saying anything else. She did not expect Yun Chujio to laugh coldly. Uncle, no, my lord hall master, I have always admired and respected you the most. It is just that I did not expect that you would actually convict me before the matter had even been properly investigated. I am really very disappointed. You said it yourself. If you want to chase me away, don't worry. Unless you beg me, I won't take another step into the hall of eternal life. If I don't keep my word, I'll be struck to death by the heavenly lightning. The palace master's wife was so anxious that she wanted to bang her head against the wall. Little ancestor, why are you so stubborn at this time? Where did your usual cleverness go? However, Madame Lan was very proud in her heart. This was great. Although there was a slight deviation in the middle, the outcome was better than what she had expected. Not only was Yun Chujio, that bitch, about to be kicked out, but she had also provoked her senior brother. She would never be able to return to the Temple of Immortals in the future. At this moment, Di Baiming rushed over upon hearing the news. As soon as he entered the living room, he saw Yun Chujio's disheveled appearance and bloodshot eyes. Instantly, a cold aura spread from his body. Little Jiu, what happened? Who did this to you? Prince Charming, sob, I'm so sad. Uncle wants to chase me out of the Temple of Immortals. Not only did he scold Aunt for that old white lotus, he even wants to chase me out now. Sob. Yun Chujio threw herself into Di Baiming's arms and began to howl. Di Baiming clenched his fists. Father, is what little Jiu said true? Do you really want to chase little Jiu away just for that one thing? Di Linhan saw how Di Baiming was defending Yun Chujio, he became even angrier. Baiming. Ask little Jiu what kind of good deed did she do? I asked her to apologize to fourth junior sister, but she was fine. Not only did she injure Luo Shui, she even claimed that fourth junior sister had injured her. In the end, when Elder Su checked, she was not injured at all, it was obvious that she was lying. She had gone too far. What's wrong with me chasing her out of the Longevity Temple? This chapter is a preview. If you want to see a faster and more up-to-date chapter, please visit for more content. After Di Linhan finished speaking, everyone's eyes turned to look at Di Baiming. Although Lan Luoxue was in excruciating pain, the excitement of having succeeded in her plot had made her temporarily forget about the pain. In her heart, she thought to herself, Yun Chujio, you slut, this time, not only will you be chased out of the Temple of Immortals, your eminence will also be greatly disappointed in you. Just wait for everyone to turn their backs on you. Father, I believe that little Nine is telling the truth. Taking a step back, even if she is lying, I will support her. As long as it is little Nine who did it, I feel that it is right. Little Nine, don't be sad. Since those two things provoked you, I will kill them now to avenge you. After Di Baiming finished speaking, he looked coldly at the Lan mother and daughter. Madame Lan could not help but shiver, because she realized that what Di Baiming said was absolutely true, because the way he looked at them was completely looking at the two dead people. Senior brother. Senior brother. You have to make a decision for us, mother and daughter. Your esteemed self, you are really going to kill us. Madame Lan regretted, she did not expect Di Biming to be so infatuated with that slut. Even if Yun Chujio was driven out of the Temple of Immortals, she was afraid that we mother and daughter would lose our lives. Di Linhan was also taken aback, before he flew into a rage. Bastard. Are you going against me? If you dare to touch a single hair on their heads today, I will not forgive you. Di Biming laughed coldly. Father, for such a fool, you are willing to betray your family, do you think it is worth it? No matter what happened today is little Jio's fault. Little Jio, you have to leave the Temple of Immortals immediately, you are not welcome here. Di Linhan was feeling a little regretful in his heart, he felt that his words were a little harsh, but the arrow was already on the bow. He could only grit his teeth and admit it, or else where would his face be? Di Biming's eyes darkened. Father, this is the stupidest decision you have ever made. Since that is the case, I will not return to the back palace to stay in the future. Di Linhan was so angry that he almost fainted. It was the other way around, it was the other way around, it was all the other way around. He was so angry. The atmosphere was extremely tense. Yun Chujio wiped her tears and said to Di Linhan, My Lord Palace Master, I will naturally have to leave, but I cannot leave unjustly like this. Since I have already experienced my injuries, shouldn't I also test Lan Luox's injuries? Di Linhan snorted coldly, the clothes on that last Luox's body have already been drenched in cold sweat, how can she be faking it? But, the test is good too, it can also prove that you have really hit her. Elder Su, go over and take a look. Elder Su was already so shocked that he was dumbfounded. Emma, he had been in the Palace of Immortals for such a long time, but this was the first time he had seen such a frightening scene, where the palace master and his esteemed self had fallen out. Elder Su came back to his senses and walked to Lan Luox's side. He placed his hand on Lan Luox's wrist to feel her pulse. Then, he frowned and did not speak for a long time. Other than Di Biming and Yun Chujio, almost everyone felt that Lan Luoxue had really been poisoned. Otherwise, Elder Su would not have been unable to come to a conclusion for such a long time. Although Madame Lan was a little afraid of Di Biming's vicious words, but on second thought, she had her senior brother anyway. Moreover, the Lan family was not to be trifled with. She did not believe that he could really kill them, hence, she said, Senior brother, since Elder Su is in such a difficult position, this shows that the poison in Luo Shui is very serious. Senior brother, you cannot let Yun Chujio leave just like that. You must make her hand over the antidote. Seeing the situation, Di Linhan felt a little more confident in his heart. It seemed that he had not wronged Little Nine, so he said coldly, Little Nine, hand over the antidote, or else, HMPH. This chapter is a preview. If you want to see a faster and more up-to-date chapter, please visit for more content. Yun Chujio said indifferently, My Lord Palace Master, I did not poison Lan Luoxue, where did the antidote come from? Di Linhan's expression turned even more gloomy, Little Nine lass, this is a matter of life and death, don't mess around, hurry up and hand over the antidote, or else. My Lord Palace Master, or else would you have let someone force me? Yun Chujio's eyes were cold. She could have easily exposed the little tricks of the Lan family mother and daughter. But she felt that Di Linhan's self-righteous and self-conscious habit of putting his face before everything was going to go wrong sooner or later. Since that was the case, then she would just nip the unsettling factor in the bud. Di Linhan saw that Yun Chujio was going head-to-head with him, he roared angrily, You are so stubborn. You and that last Luo Shui are just arguing over words, do you really need to take her life? You are too vicious. Bei Ming, ask her to hand over the antidote. Di Biming said coldly, Father, if little Jio says that there is no poison, then it means that there is no poison. Moreover, Elder Su has not come to a conclusion yet. Do you really believe that thing just because it says that it is poisoned? Where is your usual judgment and caution? Di Lin Han was almost suffocated by Di Baiming's words. Good. Good. You unfilial son. I will make you completely convinced. Elder Su, do you think that little girl Luo Shui has been poisoned? Elder Su looked carefully at Di Lin Han before he said, Hall Master, Miss Lan has only suffered some minor external injuries. She has not suffered any internal injuries and she has not been poisoned. You are spouting nonsense. I am in so much pain that I am about to faint, how can I not have been poisoned? Furthermore, after Yun Chujio kicked me twice, I cannot move or speak. If this is not poison, then what is it? Uncle Hall Master, this person must have been threatened by your eminence, that's why he lied through his teeth. Lan Luoxue pointed at Elder Su and said furiously. Di Lin Han's face was dark as he looked at Elder Su. Elder Su, this matter is no child's play. If you dare to lie to me, HMPH. Elder Su laughed bitterly. Hall Master, since you do not trust me, I will go into closed-door cultivation to study the art of alchemy. In the future, I will leave the consultation to the other elders. Yun Chujio gave Elder Su 120 thumbs up. This old man was really tough. This soft nail was going to kill this stubborn old man. Damn it. Di Lin Han's face turned livid as expected. Good. Good. All of you have rebelled. Ling Feng, take my Hall Master's token and go invite Elder Chu over. I must get to the bottom of today's matter. Following Di Lin Han's words, a dark guard came in from outside and went out with Di Lin Han's token. Yun Chujio secretly pursed her lips. The pretty boy and his father's naming skills were not that good, but Ling Feng was still passable. What the hell was this Ling Feng? He might as well be called Shibei Feng. Seeing Di Lin Han so furious, the Lan mother and daughter were very pleased with themselves. As long as the crime was confirmed, not only would Yun Chujio be chased out of the Temple of Immortals, she would never be able to enter the Temple of Immortals again. The palace lord would definitely not agree to her marriage with her esteemed self. This slut had jumped all the way to her head. The palace lord's wife was so anxious that she wanted to bang her head against the wall. Why was this matter getting bigger and bigger? Elder Chu had been in closed-door cultivation all year round, and if it was not a very big matter, it would not have disturbed him. Ling Han had actually called him here. Was he determined to convict little Jill? While the palace lord's wife was worried, her heart was still feeling a little sour. Was this the husband that she had always admired? In his heart, was face that important? For the sake of face, he ignored the feelings of his family. For the sake of face, he didn't trust his subordinates. This chapter is a preview. If you want to see a faster and more up-to-date chapter, please visit for more content. The palace lord's wife's eyes turned red as she thought about it. Although the previous Di Lin Han had loved his reputation, it had not been as serious as this. Could it be that his many years of high office had caused him to forget his original intentions? Or could it be that he felt that his choice back then had been wrong? Just as the palace lord's wife was feeling extremely frustrated, an old man walked into the living room. Even though Di Lin Han was extremely furious, but seeing the old man walk in, his expression eased up. He said respectfully, Elder Chu, I have invited you here this time because I would like to trouble you to check if the little girl Luo Shui has been poisoned. Elder Chu frowned slightly, but still walked over to Lan Luok's side and started to check her pulse. After a moment, Elder Chu said unhappily, Palace Lord, are you trying to make fun of me? This girl only has some superficial injuries, she has not been poisoned at all. Lan Luoxue immediately started to shout, you're spouting nonsense. Uncle Hall Master, he must have been bribed by His Majesty too. I'm in so much pain, how can I not be poisoned? Could it be that the cold sweat on my body is fake? Elder Chu snorted coldly, there's no one in this world who can bribe me. As for the cold sweat on your body, it shouldn't be difficult for a cultivator to force out cold sweat, right? Hall Master, I have finished my examination, can I leave now? How many cauldrons of elixirs have I yet to refine? I have no interest in getting involved in these tricks to frame people. Di Linhan's face alternated between green and white. He still had some doubts towards Elder Zu's words, but he did not have the slightest doubt towards Elder Chu. He quickly said, Luo Shui lass, shut up. How could Elder Chu lie? Elder Chu, since you have already finished your examination, then please leave. At that moment, a clear and melodious voice rang out, Elder Chu, please wait a moment. My Lord Hall Master, since Elder Chu is here, then help me to have a test to see if it is because I have consumed a medicinal pill that my injuries cannot be seen. Di Linhan saw that it was Yun Chujio who had spoken and he frowned. His heart was currently in a mess and he said a little impatiently, hasn't Elder Su already confirmed that you are not injured? What is there to have a test on? Lord Palace Master, haven't you always claimed to be fair in handling matters? Since Lan Luoxue can be checked twice, why can't I? Yun Chujia's little face was as cold as ice. This stubborn old fogey really deserved to be taught a lesson. I will let you get slapped in the face in a while, let's see if you still have the face to care about your face in the future. Good. Good. Elder Chu, I will have to trouble you to take a look at this little scoundrel as well. He is really infuriating me. Di Linhan was so angry that he was twitching. Although Elder Chu had a strange temper, but it was not appropriate for him to disobey Di Linhan's orders and he began to check Yun Chujia's pulse. Very quickly, Elder Chu snorted coldly and said, she is fine, not even slightly injured. What a waste of this old man's time. Lan Luoxue was a little disappointed just a moment ago, but seeing Elder Chu say this now, she suddenly had the confidence to say, Uncle Palace Master, although Yun Chujio did not poison me, but it is true that she hit me. There are no injuries on her body, which means that she is slandering my mother. My mother did not hit her at all. Madame Lan said with an aggrieved look on her face, Senior brother, as an elder, can I make a move against a junior? Fortunately, Elder Su and Elder Chu are very observant and that is why they have cleared my name. Otherwise, I would not be able to explain myself with my mouth full. Di Linhan gritted his teeth. The truth has already been revealed. Little Jiu, what else do you have to say? This chapter is a preview. If you want to see a faster and more up-to-date chapter, please visit for more content. Yun Chujio ignored Di Linhan and instead said to Elder Chu, Elder Chu, you said that I have not been injured before but you have overlooked one point. I have already taken a healing elixir and that is why I have recovered to my original state. Elder Chu snorted coldly, HMPH. Even if you had taken a transcendent grade elixir, you would not have recovered so quickly. Little girl, don't quibble. This old man is very busy and I do not have the time to meddle in your affairs. After Elder Chu finished speaking, he was about to leave when he didn't expect Yun Chujio to leap in front of him. Her right hand shook and Elder Chu was instantly stunned on the spot. How is this possible? What did you take just now? But Elder Chu was so agitated that he couldn't even finish his words. Yun Chujio smiled faintly and handed the medicinal pill in her hand to Elder Chu. Elder Chu, what I took just now was this kind of medicinal pill. After Elder Chu received the pill, he rubbed his eyes and looked at it carefully before sniffing it again. He was so excited that his hands were trembling. Where did this come from? Brother Bei Ming's master gave it to me. Elder Chu, after I was injured, I originally wanted to eat an ordinary blood coagulation pill. However, I was too rushed and accidentally ate such a pill. Now, you should believe that I was really injured before, right? Yun Chujio had an aggrieved expression. What a reckless waste of a heavenly gift. What a reckless waste of a heavenly gift. Such a precious pill, and you actually wasted it just like that. What a pity. Hall master, I was blind just now. This lady should have been injured, but the pill she took was too precious, so I didn't see through it. Since she was in a hurry to take the pill, then she must have been seriously injured, she must have suffered serious internal injuries. Elder Chu was a medicine addict, and his heart was like a cat scratching. He really wanted to ask Yun Chujio if she had any other elixirs, but the prerequisite was to keep her here, so he added another sentence. Di Linhan was stunned. Little Jiu was really injured. Could it be that I've wronged her? Madame Lan was anxious. Elder Chu, you said earlier that Yun Chujio wasn't injured, why are you changing your words now? Besides, it's impossible for any elixirs to heal her injuries so quickly, you're lying. Elder Chu snorted coldly, completely ignoring Madame Lan. Di Linhan said in a low voice, "Fourth junior sister, shut up. I trust Elder Chu's character and medical skills." Did you really hit little Jill? Madame Lan's heart turned a few times. It seemed that this Elder Chu's words carried a lot of weight. She had to avoid the important points and make it light, hence, she said, "Senior brother, at that time, I only used the palm wind to force Yun Chujio away. At most, she only suffered some superficial injuries." Elder Chu was just making a deduction. No matter what, Yun Chujio's beating of Luo Shui first was all her fault. "Senior brother, please help us make a decision." Di Linhan had been blinded by his rage earlier and now, when he caught a glimpse of the palace lord's wife whose eyes were slightly red, as well as the cold and threatening Di Biming, when he saw the disapproving expressions on Elder Su and Elder Chu's faces, he felt a tinge of regret in his heart. Hence, he pondered for a moment before he said, "Little Nine lass, since you did not poison her and you are also injured, then let's make this matter a small one. You should immediately apologize to your Aunt Lan and that last Luo Shui, and let's forget about this matter." What? The mother and daughter of the Lan clan immediately became anxious. Forget about apologizing? Wasn't he already going to chase her out earlier? Lan Luoxue immediately said, "Uncle Palace Master, Yun Chujio beat me up like this and slandered my mother." Just like that? Madame Lan also said aggrievedly, "Senior brother, are you planning to protect Yun Chujio? She used words to humiliate us yesterday and today she beat up Luoxue. Just like that? Senior brother, you have disappointed me." Junior sister, little lass Luoxue, then what do you think we should do about little ninth? Di Linhan saw that the mother and daughter of the Lan clan were not going to let this matter go, and he felt a little unhappy in his heart. He thought in his heart, because of all of you, I have been betrayed by all of you, and you are still not satisfied. Lan Luoxue was just about to say something. Madame Lan saw the expression on Di Linhan's face and immediately said, "Senior brother, I was just angry for a moment. Since you have already made your decision, then we will do as you say. Let Yun Chujio apologize to us and let this matter go." When Di Biming saw Madame Lan say that, his expression softened a little and he looked at Yun Chujio. "Little Jiu, what do you say?" "Lord Palace Master, thank you for sparing us, but I did not do anything wrong. Why should I apologize to this pair of white lotus flowers?" Yun Chujio said lightly. The Lan mother and daughter almost laughed out loud. This Yun Chujio was really too stupid. The palace master had originally planned to let her off, but she still went against him. She was really courting death. Di Linhan had not expected that Yun Chujio would not appreciate his kindness and he was so angry that he gritted his teeth. "Little Jiu girl, don't make the same mistake again and again. As long as you apologize immediately, this matter will be treated as if it did not happen. Otherwise, you will return to the Tian Yuan Academy." Yun Chujio smiled brightly, "My Lord Palace Lord, I have always treated you like a father and respected you, and I have also treated you as my idol for moving forward. But I had not expected that you would actually act in such a manner because of your face and the so-called relationship between senior and junior. Have you considered how my aunt would feel if you did this? Have you considered how Big Brother Bei Ming would feel? Have you considered how the subordinates of the Hall of Eternal Life would feel? I do not believe that you, as the leader of a hall, do not even have the ability to distinguish right from wrong. I do not believe that you cannot see through the despicable methods of these two white lotuses. However, for the sake of your so-called reputation, you chose to ignore them. Because my aunt loves you, she chose to endure. My big brother Bei Ming is your son. For the sake of family ties, she can only endure. However, I will not endure it. I will let you hear what has happened now. I'll let you see how these white lotus flowers scheme to trick me into falling into their trap. Yun Chujio took out the recording stone from her storage ring, and Lan Luok's voice came out from it. You must kneel down and kowtow to my mother and me to admit your mistake. This is called sincerity. Apologize. Yun Chujio, they'll scold you. What do you think? You're a slut. You're a slut who has a mother but has no mother. Mother, she must have poisoned me. Please help me take revenge quickly and capture her. I want to tear her into pieces. Di Linhan's head buzzed and beads of sweat appeared on his forehead. His hands were even trembling slightly. The Lan mother and daughter had never thought that Yun Chujio would still have such a trick up her sleeve. Their expressions immediately changed. Lan Luoxue was already in a lot of pain and she had only been holding on because she was excited that her plot had succeeded. Now that she saw that the matter had been exposed, she immediately fainted. Madame Lan could not be bothered with Lan Luoxue and hurriedly said, Senior brother, listen to me, this recording stone must have been forged by Yun Chujio. Luoxue did not scold her at all. Enough. Fourth junior sister. There's no need to say anything else. Take Miss Lan and leave the Palace of Immortals immediately. In the future, do not come here again. Let the friendship between us senior brothers and sisters end here. Di Linhan said in a low voice. Senior brother, do you not believe me? When have I ever lied to you? This recording stone is really fake. Madame Lan was naturally unwilling to be chased out just like that. This chapter is a preview. If you want to see a faster and more up-to-date chapter, please visit for more content. Di Linhan took a deep look at Madame Lan and said, Fourth junior sister, it is very easy to determine whether this recording stone is real or fake. I just need to find a master weaponsmith and I will be able to tell. However, if the time comes to verify that this recording stone is real, then it will not be as simple as ending the relationship between our senior and junior sister. I will make your Lan family pay a corresponding price. Are you sure you want to do that? Madame Lan saw the look on Di Linhan's face and knew that there was no turning back. She could only say, Senior, all right, since you do not believe me, then I will not say anything more. When your anger has subsided, we will sit down and have a good talk. Yun Chujio thought to herself, this Madame Lan was really a weirdo. Even in such a state, she was still able to remain calm. This was not just because of her thick skin, but because this kind of person did not have any face at all. At this moment, Lan Luoxue woke up. She knew that the situation was over, so she decided not to pretend anymore and directly scolded, Yun Chujio, what kind of shameful methods did you use? Why is my entire body in unbearable pain? The corners of Yun Chujio's mouth curled up. Lan Luoxue, didn't the two elders say just now? Your injuries are not serious, and you were not poisoned. As for why you are in pain, it's probably because you have done too many shameful things, so you have suffered retribution, right? You're spouting nonsense. Bitch. Hurry up and cure me, or I won't forgive you. Lan Luok's face was ferocious. When Di Linhan saw this side of Lan Luoxue, he couldn't help but feel ashamed. He had really been blind, he had really lived in vain. Di Baiming had long wanted to chase the two white lotuses away. If it wasn't for Yun Chujio stopping him, he would have attacked just now. Now that he saw Lan Luoxue throwing a tantrum, he coldly snorted, "Men, chase these two things out. If you ever step within 100 li of the Palace of Immortals again, kill without mercy." Bai Li's voice was filled with killing intent. Yun Chujio felt that the pretty boy was extremely handsome, extremely cool. He was 100 times stronger than his father. No, 1,000 times. Madame Lan was frightened by Di Baiming's killing intent and trembled slightly. She knew that he wasn't joking, so she quickly got her maidservants to help Lan Luoxue and left. As for Lan Luox's pain, she didn't care too much, she reckoned that it would not hurt much after a while. Moreover, at most, she could just return to the northernmost region and find someone proficient in medicine to take a look. After the Lan mother and daughter left, the living room was deathly silent. Di Linhan's face alternated between green and white, and he could not utter a single word after a few mouthfuls. He was filled with regret and guilt at the same time. "Aunt, I will return to the Tian Yuan Academy now. In the future, I will definitely not come to the Palace of Immortals. If you miss me, you can go to the Tian Yuan Academy to visit me. Although uncle is no longer my uncle, you are still my aunt." Yun Chujio said indifferently. "Little Jiu girl, aunt will send you back. Coincidentally, I will also go to Idol City to stay for a few days." The wife of the hall master said with red eyes. "Really? That's great. Aunt, I am also a rich person now. When the time comes, I will buy a big house in Idol City. The two of us will eat and drink happily every day. Just thinking about it is very beautiful. Big brother Baiming, if you don't have anything else to do, let's go together. It would be great if the three of us could be together." Yun Chujio said with a smile. Di Baiming nodded and the three of them walked out of the door. Unexpectedly, no one paid any attention to Di Linhan. Di Linhan took a few steps forward and opened his mouth, but he still could not say anything to apologize. His forehead was full of sweat and he was clearly very anxious. His intestines were about to turn green with regret. This chapter is a preview. If you want to see a faster and more up-to-date chapter, please visit for more content. Elder Chu sighed, "Palace Lord, a mistake is a mistake. It's not a big deal to admit your mistake. Don't make such a big mistake and regret it. When the time comes, it will be too late." Di Linhan gritted his teeth and shouted with a flushed face, "All of you, come back. I was wrong, all right." Yun Chujio and the other two continued to walk forward as if they had not heard anything. Di Linhan was even more anxious this time and had no choice but to leap up to block in front of the three of them. "In this matter, I was the one who made an arbitrary decision. Don't leave." The palace lord's wife said indifferently, "Husband, this time it's little Jiu who is quick-witted. If it wasn't for the recording stone, I'm afraid that you would still believe in the Lan clan mother and daughter. In your heart, can we not be compared to two outsiders? If the person involved this time was me, I'm afraid that you would have divorced me in a fit of anger. I did not think that the husband who had been protecting me all those years ago would actually turn out like this. Perhaps you are regretting your choice back then. Since that's the case, let's split up for a period of time. Little Jiu, Bei Ming, I'm leaving." Jean Sei, "What are you saying? How could I possibly divorce you? You're just imagining things." Di Linhan said angrily. "Imagining things? If your good junior sister set a trap and said that I hurt Lan Luoxue, or even said that I hurt her, what would you do? Are you sure that you would not divorce me in a fit of rage? Husband, you have changed. In your heart, your face and dignity have become more important than me and Bei Ming. You can step aside. With all of us who have contradicted you gone, no one will dare to question you anymore. You can also find your other two junior sisters and entertain them however you want. No one will care about you anymore." Although tears were welling up in her eyes, the palace mistress said stubbornly. Di Linhan was stunned by the latter's words. He did not speak for a long while before he finally said dejectedly, Jin say, Bei Ming, little Jiu, don't go. At most, I won't appear in front of all of you. After saying that, Di Linhan jumped up and disappeared without a trace. Yun Chuzhou blinked her eyes. What was the meaning of this? Did he think that by running away, he would be able to solve the problem? The palace lord's wife sighed. Little ninth girl, Baiming, since that's the case, let's not leave for the time being. If he continues to be like this, when little ninth girl starts school, I will follow her to Wuyi City. Di Baiming naturally did not really want to leave, so he nodded his head and returned to the front hall. Yun Chuzhou was just about to return to the palace with the palace master's wife when Elder Chu came up to her and said, Little girl, no, ninth young miss, do you still have those pills? Are you going to show me? Yun Chuzhou was happy. This old man had helped her out, so she took out a small porcelain bottle from her storage ring and said, Brother Baiming's master only gave me these few pills. If you are interested, take them and study them. Elder Chu was in disbelief. Miss Jiu, you mean you gave all these pills to me? These are all heaven-grade pills. Thank you for speaking up for me. Take these pills as my gift to you. Besides, although these pills are precious, their level isn't high. You can just give me some rare herbs. Yun Chuzhou said with a smile. Elder Chu immediately put the pills into his storage ring and then stuffed a pile of rare herbs into Yun Chuzhou's hands. He was afraid that Yun Chuzhou would go back on her word and run away like a rabbit. Elder Su was also itching for more. He found an excuse to chase after Elder Chu. This chapter is a preview. If you want to see a faster and more up-to-date chapter, please visit for more content. Yun Chuzhou smiled and followed the palace master's wife back to the palace master's wife's bedroom. Little Jiu, I've let you down this time. The palace master's wife said guiltily. Auntie, it's fine. Dealing with those 2 white lotus flowers was a piece of cake. The reason why I went through so much effort was to change my uncle's bad habit. Otherwise, there would be problems sooner or later. Yun Chuzhou sat on the chair with her legs crossed. As she chewed on the fruit, there was no trace of the grievance from before. The palace master's wife was stunned. Then, she understood that Yun Chuzhou did this to stand up for her. Tears almost fell from her eyes. Little Jiu, Auntie didn't treat you well in the past. You saved my life and helped me so much. I really feel ashamed of you. Auntie, don't say that. You're treating me like an outsider. You're the mother of my Prince Charming, so you're my mother. It's my duty to treat you well. If you feel bad about it, just give me the key to the treasure house earlier. Otherwise, I'll miss you so much that I won't be able to sleep. Yun Chuzhou said playfully. The palace master's wife scolded jokingly, You little scoundrel. You've led me astray in serious matters. By the way, why does that Lan Luoxue keep saying that her body hurts? Did you really not do anything? I really didn't do anything. I think she's having a stroke. Yun Chuzhou blinked her eyes and said innocently. The palace master's wife. Are you kidding me? A stroke? I've never heard that having a stroke hurts all over the body, and it even hurts for such a long time. However, whether it was little Jiu who did it or not, Lan Luoxue deserved it. She actually spoke so viciously. She was really like her mother, just like her daughter. Aunt, you have to hold on this time. If my uncle doesn't completely give in, don't forgive him. Otherwise, if there's a first time, there will be a second time. When those 2 junior sisters come, he will still fall ill. Yun Chuzhou pouted and said. The palace master's wife nodded. What I said just now wasn't out of anger. Your uncle has really changed over the years. So he's not like this. Perhaps it is because the power of the Temple of Immortals has been growing in recent years and he is starting to feel that he is the only one who is above everyone else. I hope that he will be able to come to his senses. Otherwise, I will really go live with you in Void City for a period of time. Yun Chujia's mouth twitched in her heart. Tsk, the old witch was clearly reluctant to part with him and she hoped that the stubborn old man would come to his senses. She did not want to have to worry about the old witch and the stubborn old man fighting over the White Lotus all day long after she married him. For 2 consecutive days, Di Linhan did not appear in front of the palace mistress and Yun Chujio. Yun Chujio sneered in her heart. Tsk, let's see how long you can hold it in. On the 3rd night, Di Linhan came to the palace mistress' bedroom with his beard unkempt. The palace mistress acted as if she did not see Di Linhan and was embroidering flowers there. This was the first time Di Linhan saw the palace mistress embroidering flowers. In the past, the palace mistress had always done it behind his back. When he saw the red blob on it, the corners of his eyes twitched violently, licking his face. He went up to her and said in a fawning manner, "Jean Say, your embroidery is really lifelike. I did not expect that not only are you proficient in zither, chess, calligraphy and painting, but you also know how to embroider. Your husband has really married a good wife." The palace lord's wife glanced at him and said flatly, "Is that so? Since you think that my embroidery is not bad, then I will use this piece of cloth to sew a fragrance pouch for you. Take it with you." This, I have never brought a sachet with me. The moment Di Linhan thought about bringing out such a mass of red, the corners of his mouth could not help but twitch. "Is that so? I remember that you had told me before that your second junior sister's embroidery skills are superb and she had once helped you make clothes and sew sachet. Why? You can bring what she makes, but I can't bring what I make." When the palace lord's wife spoke up to this point, her nose turned sour and her eyes turned slightly red. The reason why she had been secretly practicing her embroidery was because she had been brooding over the fact that Di Linhan had said that her second junior sister's embroidery skills were superb. It was a pity that she really was not cut out for embroidery. Having been secretly practicing for more than 20 years, she was still at this level. Di Linhan was taken aback. He gritted his teeth and said, "All right, you do it. Once you're done, I'll bring you along." Jean Say, in this matter, it was my fault. I should not have wrongly accused little Jill without any reason, nor should I have let you suffer for the sake of face. The lady of the palace lord laughed coldly. "You were wrong. You are the dignified palace lord, how could you be wrong? Your 4th junior sister is gentle and kind, and even her daughter is cute and adorable. Our little Gio is just a wild little girl, so it is naturally little Gio's fault." Di Linhan's old face turned red. "Jean Say, it's my fault for not being able to see people clearly. I didn't think that 4th junior sister would turn out like this." "Turn out like this? She has always been like this. Thinking back to the time when she framed me countless times, it was just that I was lucky and did not fall for it. Looks like you still haven't thought it through. You go out, I'm going to bed." The palace mistress threw the embroidered cloth aside. She said angrily. Di Linhan was taken aback. "She has framed you countless times. Why have you never told me about it?" The palace lord's wife could not help but laugh bitterly. "I haven't told you about it. It's just that you don't believe me. Moreover, there are still 2 more helpers. How could you possibly believe what I said? I sometimes wonder, I don't know if I am lucky or unlucky, to be framed by them like this, and still be married to you." Jean Say, what are you saying? Don't tell me you regret marrying me. Don't tell me you're still thinking about those idiots who pursued you back then. Di Linhan. Is it wrong for them to pursue me? How did they become idiots in your mouth? Forget it. I'm not going to argue with you anymore, let's just calm down for a while. The palace mistress said with a cold face. Di Linhan wanted to say more, but the palace mistress immediately pushed him out and locked the door behind him. Di Linhan was so angry that he gritted his teeth. He had already calmed down earlier, how did it become like this again? Where did he go wrong? For the next 2 days, although Di Linhan came to flatter her every night, the palace mistress remained as cold as ice and did not even speak to Di Linhan much. Di Linhan was at his wit's end. Gritting his teeth, he licked his old face and came over to seek advice from Yun Chujio. When Yun Chujio saw that Di Linhan had come over, she said politely and respectfully, "My lord palace lord, may I know what brings you here today?" Di Linhan's old face turned red and he said in embarrassment, that, little girl Jiu, what do you mean by my lord palace lord, you should just call me uncle. Uncle? My uncle will not accuse me without any reason, and my uncle will not chase me out, and my uncle will not say that I am a vicious person. Yun Chujio said with her lips curled up. Little Nine lass, what happened that day was uncle's fault, uncle has let you down. Di Linhan's old face was flushed red and he wished he could find a hole to crawl into. Lord Hull Master, this apology is not something that can be done with just a few words. I have never suffered such grievance before and my young heart has suffered inhumane torture. These past few days, I have been having nightmares every night and I have not been able to eat or sleep well every day. I have become so haggard. Yun Chujio said with a sigh. Di Linhan looked at Yun Chujio who was glowing red and full of life, and it dawned on him that this little scoundrel was trying to extort him. This chapter is a preview. If you want to see a faster and more up-to-date chapter, please visit for more content. Di Linhan knew that if he did not spill some blood this time, he would not be able to satisfy the little rascal. He could only lick his old face and say, "Little Nine lass, this time uncle has really wronged you. These 3 immortal artifacts are just a small token of uncle's goodwill." Before Di Linhan could finish his words, Yun Chujio had already snatched the immortal artifact over. Di Linhan's heart was filled with joy. It looked like little Jiu had forgiven him. Just as he was about to ask Yun Chujio to help him deal with the situation, he heard Yun Chujio say, "My lord Hull Master, these 3 immortal artifacts can be considered to have barely made up for a tiny bit of my injuries. Will you continue to make up for it or continue to make up for it?" The corners of Di Linhan's eyes twitched violently. "Barely? A tiny bit? Aren't you a little too greedy? 3 immortal artifacts are still too little. Moreover, haven't you usually taken a lot from me?" However, Di Linhan also knew that he was in the wrong this time, so he could only grit his teeth and say, "Little Jiu, this immortal artifact is not like cabbages. I can only give you 2 more at most. 2 is fine too. Immortal artifacts are not enough to make up for spirit artifacts. Please give me some more spirit artifacts instead of attacking them. I want defensive spirit artifacts." Yun Chujio said shamelessly. Di Linhan had no choice but to throw in more defensive spirit artifacts. Although the pain was excruciating, but when he thought about it, the Temple of Immortals would belong to Bei Ming and little Jiu sooner or later. He would just treat it as giving it to her in advance. With that thought in mind, his heart felt a little better. After Yun Chujio kept the things, she asked with a smile, "Uncle, did you look for me just to give me spirit artifacts?" The corners of Di Linhan's mouth twitched a little. The little rascal's face had changed so quickly. After keeping the things, the way he addressed her immediately changed from Lord Palace Master to Uncle. Di Linhan rubbed his hands together and said a little awkwardly, "Little Jiu girl, actually, I came first to give you a spirit tool and secondly, your aunt has been angry with me. Do you have any good ideas?" Yun Chujio giggled, "Uncle, you were able to woo my aunt all those years ago, why are you looking for me now?" Di Linhan was stunned, "Little Nine lass, what do you mean by that?" "Uncle, it's very simple, you bring out the energy that you used to woo my aunt, and bring out the spirit of not being afraid of suffering and being shameless, you will definitely be able to change my aunt's mind." In addition, it'll give you a priceless piece of advice. That is, you must not say anything nice about your 3 junior sisters in front of my aunt. The more you dislike them, the better. It will definitely work. Uncle-in-law, actually, there are some things that I, as a junior, should not say. However, I have to say that in regards to the treatment of the white lotus flowers, you are really not as good as Brother Bei Ming. When did Brother Bei Ming ever treat those white lotus flowers well? Therefore, we won't be at odds with each other. Oh, and the most important thing is that you have to believe my aunt no matter what. If the person who came a few days ago was my aunt's senior brother, and my aunt protected him in every way. How are you feeling? Uncle, this is all I can help you with. The rest is up to you. Di Lin Han nodded thoughtfully. Little Jiu girl, thank you very much. I'll be going back now. Yun Chujiu nodded. Uncle, please take care. Di Lin Han had not gone far when he heard Yun Chujiu shouting from behind with a smile. Uncle, about that, if you really can't handle it, give me a few more immortal artifacts and I'll give you more advice. Di Lin Han staggered. Your consultation fee is really too expensive, I should settle it myself. This chapter is a preview. If you want to see a faster and more up-to-date chapter, please visit for more content. Di Lin Han went back to mull over what Yun Chujiu had said for a moment before he went back to the palace where the palace lord's wife was sleeping. The palace lord's wife was still there embroidering flowers. Di Lin Han went against his heart and praised the palace lord's wife's embroidery skills a few times before he said, Jin Sei, the weather outside is very good today. Why don't we go for a walk in the back garden? The wife said lightly, you can go by yourself. I think it would be good to embroider flowers in the house. If that's the case, then I will not go. You can continue to embroider. I will watch you embroider from the side. Di Lin Han said as he sat down directly opposite the wife. The wife did not even lift her eyelids as she continued to embroider flowers. Di Lin Han looked at the crumpled red blob and gritted his teeth as he said, Jin Sei, didn't you say that you want to make a perfume bag for your husband? Why don't you do it now? I just happen to want to make a perfume bag to wear. The palace mistress finally raised her head and looked at Di Lin Han. You really want to wear it? Wear it. As long as it's Jin Sei, I will wear it. Di Lin Han said through gritted teeth. The palace mistress raised an eyebrow. My craftsmanship is not as good as your second junior sister's, aren't you afraid that you will lose face if you wear it? Di Lin Han suddenly thought of the suggestion that Yun Chujiu had mentioned. He immediately said, how can second junior sister's craftsmanship be better than Jin Se's? What the hell is that thing that she embroiders? How can it be as vivid as Jin Se's? Look at the flowers that you embroider. Your husband seems to be able to smell the fragrance from them. Although the palace lord's wife knew that Di Lin Han was lying through his teeth, she still felt a tinge of sweetness in her heart and her expression softened slightly as she said, since that's the case, I will sew you a fragrance pouch right now. Alright, I will wait here. Di Lin Han saw that the palace lord's wife's expression had softened and he could not help but be secretly delighted. It looked like the suggestion that little Nine had made was very useful and it was not in vain that he had been extorted so many good things. Although the palace lord's wife's embroidery skills had not improved over the years, but her needlework, had actually not improved much either. She had gone through a lot of effort to sew up a strange-shaped sachet. In order to prevent the fragrance inside from leaking out, the palace lord's wife had sewed it several times before she had filled it with some fragrance. She then sewed the mouth shut. Here, put it on. The palace lord's wife handed the freshly brewed sachet to Di Lin Han. Di Lin Han looked at the sachet that was so ugly that he could not bear to look straight at it and said against his heart, Jin Sei, this sachet of yours is the most exquisite sachet I have ever seen. I will put it on right now and let you have a look. Di Lin Han gritted his teeth and put the sachet on his waist, saying with a smile, Jin Sei, look, your craftsmanship is really not bad. A glint of a smile flashed in the eyes of the palace lord's wife. Since you like my craftsmanship so much, I have decided to make you another piece of clothing. Di Linhan's feet staggered and he almost knelt down before the palace lord's wife. He thought to himself, this sachet was after all small in size and no one would pay attention to it. Could the clothes she had made be worn? If he were to wear it out, wouldn't it make people laugh their heads off? You're not saying anything, could it be that you're not willing? Since you're not willing, then forget it. The palace lord's wife said with a frown. Di Linhan was afraid that all his previous efforts would be wasted, so he could only say with a smile, of course I'm willing. I'm so happy that I'm a fool, that's why I didn't say anything. Then he'll have to trouble you, my wife. Hearing that, the palace mistress immediately started to make clothes for Di Linhan. A few days later, the palace mistress had ruined quite a few pieces of cloth and finally stayed up all night to make a long robe for Di Linhan. Di Linhan looked at the clothes in the hands of the palace lord's wife and he almost cried. There was nothing wrong with the black cloth, but what the hell was that bunch of red embroidery on it? Di Linhan gritted his teeth and said, Jin Sei, you are really too capable, to be able to sew it up so quickly? The palace lord's wife said a little smugly, although my embroidery skills are average, but this sewing work is not bad. Come here, give it a try and see how it goes. Di Linhan braced himself and asked the palace lord's wife to help him put on his clothes. Di Linhan looked at himself in the mirror and the corners of his eyes twitched a little. He did not say anything more about the blobs of red on top, but why was there a long sleeve and a short sleeve? One wide and one narrow. Even the hem of the clothes was actually high on one side and low on the other. Jin Sei, your craftsmanship is really too good. The clothes really fit you too well. Di Linhan rolled up the left sleeve and said against his will. Since you think it's not bad, then you should wear it. Oh right, why isn't the fragrance pouch I made for you exposed? Are you finding it distasteful? If you find it distasteful, then return it to me. The lady palace master said coldly. Seeing that, Di Linhan quickly took out the fragrance pouch and said, Jin Sei, I was afraid that it would be worn out, so I kept it. I will put it on now. Di Linhan put the sachet on his waist and made up his mind. No matter what he said, he would not go out today. When tomorrow morning came, he would think of a way to get some tea or something, and then he would be able to change out of his clothes. Just as Di Linhan was thinking about that, he heard the wife of the palace lord say, I have been cooped up in the house for quite a few days and the weather today is not bad. You should accompany me to take a walk in the back garden. That's right, you should be more careful. If you get something dirty on the clothes that I have worked so hard to make, HMPH. Di Linhan felt his head buzz. The bedroom was not very close to the back garden. If he were to go out, wouldn't the entire back garden be able to see his comical appearance? How would he be able to face others in the future? Where would his dignity as the palace lord go? Why? You are not willing to accompany me? If that's the case, then I will go alone. The palace lord's wife walked out with a cold face. Di Linhan was at a loss. Should he go or not? The result was obvious. If he were to go, the palace lord's wife's anger would be mostly gone. If he did not go, the Cold War between the two of them would definitely continue, and it might even become more serious than before. Was face more important or was affection more important? Di Linhan gritted his teeth and stomped his foot to chase after her. Jin Sei, wait for me, I'll go with you. The corners of the palace lord's wife's mouth curled up, and she turned to face Di Linhan with a bright smile. All right, I'll wait for you. Di Linhan felt that it had been a long time since he had seen the palace lord's wife smile so happily, and his heart felt a chill. He ran over to her, and the two of them walked side by side towards the back garden. The servants of the Palace of Immortals were all dumbstruck as they looked at the man beside the palace lord's wife. Emma, was that the palace lord? What the hell was the palace lord wearing? Was that called clothes? What the hell was that ball of red on top? Was that an imitation of a leopard's spots? And why was the palace lord still rolling up one of his sleeves? Why were the two sides of the lower hem not lengthened on either side? Emma, the fragrance sachet hanging from the palace lord's waist. This is a little too shabby, isn't it? Di Linhan noticed the gazes of the servants as they sized him up. He couldn't wait to activate the concealment talisman and even took a turn when he walked. The palace mistress glanced at him and said, "If you regret it, you can go back now. I will go to the garden by myself." Di Linhan braced himself and said, "Who said I have to go back? The weather is so good and it is perfect for a walk outside. Moreover, the clothes you made for me, Jean say, are so unique. It would be nice to let more people see them." The lady of the palace hall pursed her lips into a smile and stretched out her hand. Di Linhan was not stupid, he quickly held it and the two of them walked forward hand in hand. Di Linhan held the soft hand in his hand, the joy that was overflowing from the bottom of his heart had washed away all the face and awkwardness, and he only felt that for this moment, it wouldn't matter even if he had to wear the clothes for a few more days. Hence, the servants of the Hall of Immortals saw their usually solemn and imposing palace lord dressed in a strange robe, wearing an ugly-looking sachet. Laughing like a fool, he walked hand in hand with the palace lord's wife towards the back garden. For the next 2 days, Di Linhan was forced by the palace lord's wife to wear that unique robe. At first, Di Linhan was still feeling a little uncomfortable, but as time passed, he did not feel that it was a big deal. It did not matter that he had let go of his pride, and he felt that the feeling of letting go of his ego was not too bad. Most importantly, the relationship between Di Linhan and the mistress of the palace hall seemed to have returned to the feeling of being passionately in love. The two of them spent their days together, drinking tea, playing chess, going for a walk, and of course, they could not avoid having intimate contact. The complexion of the mistress of the palace hall had become a little more alluring than before. Seeing that the two of them had reconciled, Yun Chujio was naturally very happy, but the little pervert's heart was a little sour. What the hell, when would she be able to eat the pretty boy? Could it be that if the strange grass in her dantian was not removed, her sunflower water would not come? Forget about the Guai Chao. That fellow Yun Chujio had to scold it at least a few hundred times every day. The Guai Chao had no choice but to spend money to buy some peace and provide a drop of liquid to stimulate the growth of the medicinal herbs. Only then did Yun Chujio stop nagging. On this day, Di Linhan held up 2 invitation cards and said, "Gui Yuan sect and Yin clan have jointly sent over an invitation card. 5 days later, Qin Mingzhu and Yin Zucheng's engagement ceremony will be held. They have invited me and Bei Ming to attend the ceremony." The wife of the palace lord frowned. "Husband, you can go alone, right? Does Bei Ming still need to go? It has specifically stated that both me and Bei Ming are invited. Furthermore, Qin Mingzhu is the pearl in Qin Yixio's palm. Although Qin Zucheng's father is the second elder of the Yin clan, his status is not low. The engagement ceremony between the two of them should be of a higher standard." Di Linhan explained. "Father, if we both leave the Palace of Immortals, wouldn't the situation be the same as the last time? What if the Hall of the Netherworld attacks?" "I'd better not go," Di Baiming said with a frown. Di Linhan also felt that it was not very safe for the two of them to leave. "That's fine. When the time comes, they'll just find an excuse to say it. Since that's the case, they'll set off for the Gui Yuan sect tomorrow. Bei Ming will stay in the Palace of Immortals." The next day, Di Linhan brought dozens of secret guards to Gui Yuan sect. Once Di Linhan left, Di Baiming had a lot of things to deal with. Hence, Yun Chujio was like a wild horse that had run out of control and no one cared about her anymore. Yun Chujio counted with her fingers. There were only about 10 days left until the start of school. How did the holidays pass so quickly? This fellow quickly ran to the kitchen and asked Stewardly to prepare the food that she wanted to take away. After instructing Stewardly, this fellow decided to pick some spirit fruits for her to eat back at Tian Yuan Academy. When she was almost done picking, Yun Chujio recalled the incident where she fell into the forbidden area for the sake of picking the 7-star fruit. She ran to the vicinity of the forbidden area to pick the 7-star fruit. This chapter is a preview. If you want to see a faster and more up-to-date chapter, please visit for more content. Although this forbidden land was no different from the ordinary places after the last incident, the stone tablet was still standing there. No one from the Temple of Immortals dared to go inside. After Yun Chujio picked a few 7-star fruits, she mumbled, "It's such a pity to waste such a large piece of land. Oh right, I happen to have the growth-promoting liquid that Go Weiba gave me. Why don't I plant a Hundun fruit tree and try it? What if it can grow without earth fire?" This fellow thought out loud and ran into the forbidden land. He took out his pickaxe and dug a hole. Then, he took out the core of a Hundun fruit and buried it in it. After he diluted the liquid, he poured it on top of it. A moment later, a tender shoot emerged from the soil and grew with the wind. Soon, it grew taller than Yun Chujio. This fellow was happy. It seemed that the liquid secreted by Go Weiba could not only accelerate the growth, but also change the environment of the spiritual plants. Go Weiba tail could be considered useful. Yun Chujio poured another basin of water on the roots of the tree, and flower buds began to form on the Hundun tree. Yun Chujio touched her chin. This speed seemed to be much faster than when she was in the Linghua sect. It seemed that this liquid was also upgrading along with the upgrade of Go Weiba tail. Yun Chujio poured another basin of water, and the flowers began to bloom, emitting waves of strange fragrance. Yun Chujio drooled as she waited for the flowers to bear fruit. At this moment, a sudden change occurred. A huge suction force suddenly came from under her feet, and Yun Chujio and the Hundun tree instantly disappeared. Yun Chujio's mind only flashed with one sentence. If she didn't do it, she wouldn't die. When Yun Chujio opened her eyes, she let out a bitter laugh. This was actually the place where the aura of Hundun was sealed when she was framed by Dian Chui the last time. To her surprise, the roots of the fruit tree of Hundun started to grow thicker. More and more flower buds grew on the tree. The originally small space was almost completely covered by the branches and leaves of the fruit tree of Hundun. It was filled with a strange fragrance. What's going on with this thing? There was no sunlight and no earth fire. The aura of Hundun was also completely absorbed by the black bead. How could this fruit tree of Hundun still grow so luxuriously? It's really strange. However, it doesn't matter whether it's strange or not. How am I going to get out? Yun Chujio tried to summon the black bead in her dantian. It was because the black bead had absorbed all the Hundun chi before she went out last time, so she was prepared to let the black bead try again. Unexpectedly, the black bead seemed to be dead. Yun Chujio did not respond no matter how hard she tried. Yun Chujio was so angry that she grabbed a few flowers from the Hundun fruit tree and ate them. Damn it! It's all because of this broken tree. It's most likely the cause of the trouble. I'm also stupid. This Hundun fruit tree and the aura of Hundun sound like they are close relatives. Maybe they have some unspeakable relationship. I actually planted the Hundun fruit tree on it. I'm really courting death. Yun Chujio was so regretful that her intestines were turning green. She was regretting it here. The palace master's wife and Di Biming were so anxious that they were about to go crazy. She was fine, but why did she disappear? Di Biming understood Yun Chujio better. He felt that this fellow had most likely left the canteen to pick spirit fruits for future consumption. Hence, he went to the spirit fruit forest to look for Yun Chujio. Di Biming followed Yun Chujio's footprints all the way to the forbidden area. When he saw that the footprints finally disappeared in the forbidden area, Di Biming's head buzzed. Did little Jiu fall into the forbidden area again? This chapter is a preview. If you want to see a faster and more up-to-date chapter, please visit for more content. Could it be that little Jiu has fallen into the forbidden area again? This little scoundrel, why did she come to this forbidden area for no reason? What should we do now? The palace mistress was angry and anxious. Di Biming sighed, "Mother, you don't have to worry too much. Little Jiu will definitely be fine. Didn't she come out safely last time? This time, she will definitely be fine." The palace master's wife could only sigh and say, "Sigh, don't worry too much. Even your master has no way to open this forbidden area. We can only wait for little Jiu to come out on her own." Di Biming nodded and had no choice but to have people stand guard around the forbidden area. He hoped that Yun Chuzhou would come out earlier this time. Moreover, the unlucky Yun Chuzhou could not move the black bead at her command. She could only think of a way to save herself. She kept hacking at the edge of the space with the big kitchen knife. The space in the forbidden land kept getting bigger. The strange thing was that the branches and leaves of the Hundun fruit tree covered the area as the space got bigger. "Fuck, I don't believe that you can keep growing even if I keep hacking." This guy was competing with her. Therefore, Yun Chuzhou started to hack at the space, eat, sleep, and then hack at the space. The trunk of the Hundun fruit tree became thicker and thicker. Its branches and leaves covered the entire forbidden space, and it even began to bear fruit. Yun Chuzhou was also discouraged. It seemed that no matter how much space she cut, it would be occupied by this damn Hundun fruit tree. If that was the case, why would she waste her energy? She might as well wake up the black bead. Yun Chuzhou was competing with the black bead again. She scolded it a few thousand times a day. Unfortunately, the black bead still looked like a corpse and did not respond at all. Yun Chuzhou was really at her wit's end this time. Could it be that she was trapped here and died? The gigolo said that even his master could not open this forbidden area. Could it be that she really could not get out? Yun Chuzhou gritted her teeth and stared at the Hundun fruit tree. Damn it, it was all because of this damn tree. If it was not for it, she would definitely not have been implicated. Yun Chuzhou forced herself to calm down and began to recall the entire process. When she dug the hole, there was nothing unusual. When the small tree grew up, there was nothing unusual. It seemed that the moment the flower bloomed, there was a change. What did this mean? Could it be that the fragrance of the flower attracted something? In other words, something was craving for the fruit of Hundun. If that was the case, if she ripened the fruit of Hundun, would she be able to leave? Although Yun Chuzhou felt that this hypothesis was a little unreliable, she could only try her best. Hence, she forced the Guai Chao to produce another 2 drops of liquid, causing the leaves of the Guai Chao to become much dimmer. Obviously, this liquid was condensed from the essence of its body. After Yun Chuzhou diluted the liquid, she began to water the roots of the fruit of Hundun. The green fruits began to mature at a speed visible to the naked eye. The entire space was filled with a strange fragrance. Something that Yun Chuzhou thought did not appear. The ripe fruits on the tree began to fall to the ground and quickly grew into new Hundun fruit trees. Wherever their branches and leaves went, the space was forcefully squeezed open, the space rapidly expanded. Yun Chuzhou was shocked by the scene in front of her. Oh my god, this is too strange. However, this fellow did not forget to pluck her hair at this moment. She thought to herself that she had wasted 2 drops of the growth-promoting liquid. If she did not pluck a few fruits, she would be letting the Guai Chao down. Hence, this fellow leaped onto the Hundun fruit tree and began to pluck the fruits. Yun Chuzhou picked the fruits very quickly. In a short while, she had picked hundreds of them. Then, there was no more. She felt a white light flash before her eyes, and she did not know anything. Before she fainted, a thought flashed through her mind. Damn it, was it because she had picked too many Hundun fruits that she was sent out? When Yun Chujio opened her eyes, she was almost choked to death by the smelly mud. It was not easy for her to stick her head out of the mud. What the hell was this place? Yun Chujio took out the night pearl and shone it on the place. It seemed to be a dry well. Something seemed to have covered it. Yun Chujio touched it casually and found a person. When Yun Chujio pulled that person out of the mud, she found that he was already dead. Yun Chujio took out a basin of hands from her storage ring and poured it on that person's head. The dead person was a young girl. Her face was full of scars, and she looked very ferocious. Yun Chujio used a lot of effort to get the young girl's body out. She washed it with clear water and found that the young girl was wearing a set of gray clothes. The material of the cloth was very ordinary, and the clothes were badly damaged. It seemed to have been torn apart by someone. Yun Chujio found a low-level storage ring on the girl's hand. After using her spiritual sense, she found that there were only a few sets of clothes and 2 veils inside. They were probably used to hide her appearance. After all, her appearance was too badly damaged. Yun Chujio touched the girl's body again, but she did not find any identity jade token. She could only search in the mud for a while and finally found a jade token. When Yun Chujio saw the words on it, she could not help but be shocked. On the front of the jade token were the words, Gue Yuan Sect, while on the back were the words, Canteen. Could it be that she was now in Gue Yuan Sect's territory? The Temple of Immortals was 3 to 4 days away from Gue Yuan Sect, but she was actually teleported here. There was a high chance that she was really from Gue Yuan Sect, because the Temple of Immortals did not have such a dry well, nor did it have such a maid. What should she do? That little bitch, Qin Mingzhu, hated her to death. Wasn't she courting death in her territory? Yun Chujio frowned and thought for a while. Her eyes lit up. It was obvious that this maid had not died for long. Moreover, she should have been harmed by someone. Since she was harmed by someone, she must not be exposed to the public. Even if she was resurrected from the dead. The person who harmed her did not dare to make a sound. Most importantly, this maid's figure was similar to hers. If she wore the veil, no one would be able to recognize her. When she met the pretty boy's father, she would be safe. Yes, that was what she should do. Yun Chujio spent a long time to change into the servant girl's clothes. During the process of changing, Yun Chujio noticed that there were many bruises on the servant girl's body. Could it be that she was raped and killed? Miss, you have a good journey. If I can find the person who killed you, I will definitely avenge you. You can go in peace. Yun Chujio repeated it a few times before letting Xiao Hanio burn the servant girl's body. Just in case, Yun Chujio made a few fake scars on her face. Although they were very rough, they were covered by a veil, so she could not see anything. But what about this voice? She had never heard this servant girl's voice before, so wouldn't she be exposed as soon as she opened her mouth? Forget it, she would just take it one step at a time. At worst, she would just pretend that her voice was hoarse and speak less to deceive her. I don't know what level this maid's spiritual power is. The rough maids in the Palace of Immortals are usually at the 6th or 7th level of the spirit sect. They'll just pretend to be at the 6th level of the spirit sect. If I give myself away, they'll think of a way to hide it then. Yun Chujio was almost done with her calculations. Then, she sat on the chopping board and flew up to the mouth of the well. She tilted her ears to listen, and when she found that there was no movement, she carefully opened a crack and saw that there was indeed no one. Only then did she climb out of the well. This chapter is a preview. If you want to see a faster and more up-to-date chapter, please visit for more content. Yun Chujio came out of the well and realized that it was time for the lights to be turned on. It seemed to be an abandoned courtyard with weeds growing all around it. Yun Chujio came out of the courtyard and walked towards the place where the lights were on. After walking for a distance, a maid walked towards her. She was wearing the same clothes as Yun Chujio. The maid walked towards Yun Chujio and scolded angrily, "Daybreak, you damned hoof, where did you go to slack off again? You stink. Did you go to the beast pen to roll around?" Yun Chujio was afraid that she would be exposed, so she did not dare to say anything. She lowered her head and did not say anything. The servant girl raised her hand and probably wanted to hit Yun Chujio, but when she saw the mud all over her body, she could only say angrily, "Come back with me. I'll teach you a lesson tomorrow. Did you still think that you were the Miss Personal Servant Girl? Tui. If the Miss was not soft-hearted, she would have killed you long ago. You filthy hoof." Yun Chujio lowered her head and allowed the maid to scold her. However, she was puzzled in her heart. Could it be that the dead maid was Qin Ming's personal maid? What was going on with the seductive bitch? The maid kept scolding Yun Chujio along the way. From her scolding, Yun Chujio learned that the maid was called Lan Xiang. She lived in the same dormitory as Dawn. Both of them were fire maids in the canteen, the two of them were in charge of 3 stoves. Usually, Dawn did a lot of work. Unexpectedly, this afternoon, Dawn went out for a trip and did not come back. Naturally, the firework fell on Lan Xiang. Naturally, Lan Xiang was full of resentment. Yun Chujio could not help but feel happy. Although this Lan Xiang was really unlikable, it was all thanks to her. Otherwise, she would have been confused. Humph. Why aren't you saying anything? In the past, when you were high and mighty, didn't you love to talk the most? I know now. Do you feel that your voice is very unpleasant now? Damn it. You actually dared to offend the eldest miss. You're really asking for it. Lan Xiang said with a disdainful look. Yun Chujio's heart moved. Her voice was very unpleasant. It should be because someone had poured poison into her throat. Since that was the case, she was not afraid of being exposed. Yun Chujio followed Lan Xiang to a small courtyard. Lan Xiang took out her identity jade token and opened the door. She said arrogantly, "Quickly go over there and clean up the mud on your body. Otherwise, you are not allowed to enter the house." Yun Chujio looked in the direction where Lan Xiang pointed. There was a simple shed not far away. She guessed that these low-level maids would usually wash up there. Yun Chujio nodded her head and walked towards the shed. Lan Xiang pouted and entered the courtyard. Yun Chujio came to the shed. The shed was simple and crude. There was a long row of stone grooves with a few holes that were plugged with something. Yun Chujio pulled one open and there was clear water flowing out, but it was cold. Yun Chujio pouted and opened the isolation array. She took out hot water from her storage ring, washed it briefly, and changed into a set of clean-made clothes before returning to the small courtyard. Yun Chujio imitated Lan Xiang and used her identity jade token to open the courtyard door and enter the courtyard. The small courtyard was very small, and she arrived at the door of the house in just a few steps. Yun Chujio gently opened the door and walked in. Lan Xiang glanced at her and scolded, "Bitch, where exactly did you go today? Why did you come back with a body full of smelly mud? Did you go to meet a wild man?" Yun Chujio said in a rough voice, "No, no. No." "Then where did you go? Do you still think you are the beautiful maid? Let me tell you, you are now a piece of trash that no one wants. You better behave, or I will not forgive you." Lan Xiang stretched out her leg and was about to kick Yun Chujio. This chapter is a preview. If you want to see a faster and more up-to-date chapter, please visit for more content. Yun Chujio's eyes flashed with a cold light. In just an instant, she returned to a submissive look. However, she stumbled and just happened to dodge Lan Xiang's foot. Lan Xiang did not expect Yun Chuzhou to dodge. She used too much strength and fell forward. Yun Chuzhou reached out to support Lan Xiang and said in a rough voice, "Be careful." Lan Xiang shook off Yun Chuzhou's hand in exasperation, "Get lost. You don't have to pretend to be kind." Yun Chuzhou returned to her bed submissively. Lan Xiang scolded a few more times before she put out the candle and everyone went to rest. Yun Chuzhou waited until Lan Xiang fell asleep before she took out the sound transmission talisman to send a message to Di Biming. To her surprise, the sound transmission talisman did not succeed. What was going on? Could it be that the voice transmission talisman had not been used for a long time, so it had failed? Yun Chuzhou tried the voice transmission talisman with Anfeng and Shui Wuji again. Without exception, none of them could be used. Perhaps, there was a formation in the dormitory. Let's try it at the canteen tomorrow. Yun Chuzhou was a big-hearted person. She put away the voice transmission talisman and fell asleep sweetly. Daybreak, you bitch. You're still sleeping. Hurry up and go to work. If you drag me into Manager Liu's scolding, it'll tear your skin off. Yun Chuzhou suddenly sat up and stared at Lan Xiang who was shouting in front of the bed. Lan Xiang was shocked by Yun Chuzhou's gaze. When she looked again, she found that the person on the bed was still as obedient as before. She thought that she might have been seeing things. Not to mention that this bitch had fallen to such a state, even when she was in her glory days, she did not have the same imposing manner as before. When she thought of this, Lan Xiang immediately regained her arrogance. What are you standing there like a wooden stake for? Hurry up and wash up. Yun Chuzhou got up and ran out of the courtyard in a flash. She rushed to the place where she washed up. As she ran, she cursed in her heart. Damn it, little bitch, if I was not afraid of being exposed now, I would not have tortured you to death. Yun Chuzhou washed up briefly before running back. Lan Xiang had already closed the courtyard door. She had a look of disdain on her face. Humph. Actually, it doesn't make any difference whether you wash up or not. Anyway, you wear that veil all day long. Do you think that after you wash up, the scar on your face can be removed? Yun Chuzhou followed behind her fearfully and did not say a word, allowing Lan Xiang to curse non-stop at the side. Yun Chuzhou observed her surroundings without batting an eyelid. First, she passed by a large area of the dormitory. After walking for another 15 minutes, she finally saw the big words, canteen. When Yun Chuzhou and Lan Xiang arrived, there were already other people busy in the canteen. A short fat man with a greasy face saw the two of them. He scolded loudly, "What time is it? You just died. Hurry up and start a fire. If you delay breakfast, I won't forgive you." Lan Xiang twisted her waist and walked over. She pinched her throat and said, "Manager Liu, please calm down. It's that bitch, Daybreak, who is still lazing in bed. If not, I would have come long ago." Manager Liu obviously did not like the ordinary-looking Lan Xiang. He spat, "Stop trying to get close to me. Hurry up and start a fire." Lan Xiang was frustrated and vented her anger on Yun Chuzhou. "Bitch, what are you still standing there for? Didn't you hear what Manager Liu said? Hurry up and start a fire." Yun Chuzhou saw that there were 3 stoves that were left unattended. It was probably the stoves that she and Lan Xiang were in charge of. She walked over and started the fire. This fellow could not help but laugh at himself. Could it be that she was the one who started the fire? Previously, she was the one who started the fire in the Linghua sect, but now, she was still the one who started the fire in the Gui Yuan sect. Yun Chuzhou skillfully lit the fire and began to take care of the 3 stoves. Lan Xiang stood at the side and slacked off. She curled her lips. Humph. Just now, I said that Xiao didn't know how to light a fire. Isn't this burning pretty well? It seems that you are born with a cheap life. Even if you climb up the branch occasionally, you will be beaten back to your original state. Two flames flickered in Yunchujia's eyes. Some people just had to suppress people like her to gain vanity and satisfaction. They were really looking for a beating. Lan Xiang cursed a few times. Seeing that Yun Chuzhou didn't have any reaction, she probably felt a little bored, so she went to a few maids who were picking vegetables to chat. The maids were naturally very happy to see that someone was helping them with the work, so they started chatting while picking vegetables. Although Yun Chuzhou wanted to test the sound transmission talisman, there were too many people around, so she didn't dare to. She could only listen to the maids chatting. The day after tomorrow is the engagement day between our eldest miss and son-in-law. These 2 days will definitely be very busy. Yes, there are guests coming to our door one after another now. Fortunately, the ordinary guests and the guards who came with us are provided by the big canteen of the sect. We are only responsible for the food of the distinguished guests. Otherwise, we wouldn't be able to handle it even if we were busy. The cooking skills of the big canteen are not as good as the cooking skills of our small canteen. Naturally, we are responsible for the food of the distinguished guests. I heard that the sect leader has sent invitations to Your Excellency and the young master of Wuji. Do you think they can come? I have only seen their portraits and have never seen them in person. A maid lowered her voice and said, I heard that the reason why the eldest miss is engaged to the son-in-law, the Yun Chuzhou whom Your Excellency likes, and the young master of Wuji are inextricably linked is that they will definitely not come. I also heard that the young miss has always liked her husband. I didn't expect Yun Chuzhou to come out of nowhere and trick our young miss. I guess this isn't over yet. TSK, that's for sure. Look at what happened to Daybreak and you'll know what the young miss is capable of. That Yun Chuzhou will suffer sooner or later. The maids became more and more excited as they chatted. Their voices couldn't help but become louder. The short and fat man rushed over and gave each of them a slap on the face. Damn it! If anyone dares to gossip again, it'll make you suffer the same fate as Daybreak. The maids covered their cheeks and did not dare to make a sound. They began to pick the vegetables obediently. Lan Xiang also ran back dejectedly to look after a stove. After a full 2 hours of work, breakfast was finally ready. There were servants who came over to help the master and the guests with their breakfast. Yun Chuzhou was quietly collecting useful information when she felt someone staring at her. Yun Chuzhou turned around and saw a young man staring at her suspiciously. The man's eyes were blue. He was obviously a lecher. When the man saw that Yun Chuzhou was looking at him, his eyes revealed a trace of suspicion and viciousness. Then, he said to the short and fat man, Manager Lu, send the two of them to follow me. After the guests finish their meal, ask them to bring back the cutlery. Manager Lu smiled and said, Senior Brother Chu Hu, of course you can talk. The two of you follow Senior Brother Chu Hu and serve him carefully. If Senior Brother Chu Hu is not satisfied, I will skin you alive. The two people Chu Hu pointed at were Yun Chuzhou and Lan Xiang. Lan Xiang could not hide the excitement on her face. Yun Chuzhou could not help but laugh to herself. It was just a meal delivery. It was like a pie falling from the sky. How naive. Hearing Yun Chuzhia's words, Lan Xiang's eyes turned a few times. Her figure was similar to this bitch's, and with the veil on, as long as she did not speak, Senior Brother Chu Hu would not be able to recognize her. As long as she and he could achieve good things, she was not afraid that he would not like her. Thinking of this, Lan Xiang stared at Yun Chuzhou and said, Are you really not willing to go? Yun Chuzhou quickly nodded. Sister Lan Xiang, I really don't want to go. I'd rather go back and start a fire. Okay, in that case, I'll reluctantly go on your behalf. When the time comes, if Senior Brother Chu Hu blames me, just say that you told me to go, do you hear me? Lan Xiang despised him in her heart. What a fool. If she got senior brother Chu Hu's favor, would she still need to be a rough servant in the big kitchen? She could directly become an outer sect disciple. If you don't cherish this good opportunity, then it would be too easy for me. Yun Chuzhou nodded. Then Sister Lan Xiang, don't forget to put on the veil. I will go back to the cafeteria now. Lan Xiang impatiently waved her hand at Yun Chuzhou, then walked toward the barren land with the dry well. After putting on the veil, she excitedly waited for Chu Hu's arrival. An hour later, Lan Xiang heard the sound of footsteps. She could not help but be overjoyed. Then, she heard Chu Hu say, "Bitch. I didn't expect you to fake your death yesterday. Since you didn't die, then let me feel more comfortable." After Chu Hu said that, he did not care about the fact that he came up and stripped Lan Xiang of her clothes. Lan Xiang could not wait for a good thing to happen in her heart, so she half pushed and half agreed to Chu Hu's request. Although Chu Hu was a little surprised. He did not expect someone to replace Dawn. After the two of them struggled for a long time, Chu Hu finally realized that something was wrong. He used his hand to pull the veil on Lan Xiang's face and was instantly stunned. Lan Xiang said shyly, "Senior brother Chu Hu, this is my first time. You have to treat me well in the future." Chu Hu asked with an ashen face, "Why is it you? Where's Dawn?" Lan Xiang saw that Chu Hu was still thinking about Daybreak and could not help but feel even more jealous and resentful, hence, she said, Daybreak said that she did not want to have a good relationship with senior brother Chu Hu. She used her sisterly relationship to beg me. I also admire you, senior brother, so I came in her place. Bitch. You really don't know what's good for you. Chu Hu scolded. Senior brother Chu Hu, she is ugly and doesn't know how to appreciate favors. Why do you have to lower yourself to her level? I am now one of your people, senior brother Chu Hu. I am at your beck and call. Lan Xiang said shyly. Get lost. If you say anything about what happened today, I will kill you. Chu Hu kicked Lan Xiang's lower abdomen. Lan Xiang's face was pale from the pain. She did not dare to say anything more and simply put on her clothes and ran away. Chu Hu clenched his fists. Bitch, do you think you can hide from me? It's good that you are not dead. Wait until you are done with your big business and see how I will deal with you. When Lan Xiang returned to the kitchen, she wanted to settle the score with Yun Chuzhou. However, there were too many people in the kitchen, so she couldn't say anything. She could only glare at Yun Chuzhou gloomily. Bitch, wait for me to return to the dormitory at night. I won't forgive you. Yun Chuzhou naturally saw Lan Xiang's gaze, but she didn't care at all. This fellow had never found an opportunity to use a voice transmission talisman. The price of a voice transmission talisman was not cheap. If people found out that she used a voice transmission talisman, they would definitely give it away. It seemed that she could only find another suitable opportunity. Even if she could not send it out, it did not matter. Anyway, the engagement ceremony was the day after tomorrow. She would be able to meet the pretty boy's father. This chapter is a preview. If you want to see a faster and more up-to-date chapter, please visit for more content. Perhaps because there were more and more customers, the canteen was extremely busy. Yun Chuzhou could not help but criticize in her heart, Qin Mingzhu, "Oh Qin Mingzhu, I have contributed a lot to your engagement. Don't thank me too much." It was only when it was time to light the lanterns that Yun Chuzhi's career as a fire-burning servant finally came to an end. The people in the canteen began to eat. Yun Chuzhou had just taken a few bites when Lan Xiang said fiercely, "Daybreak, stop eating. Follow me back to the dormitory." Yun Chuzhou acted as if she had not heard her and continued to eat. Not to mention, the culinary skills of the chef of the Gue Yuan sect were really not bad. Lan Xiang was already filled with anger. When she saw that Yun Chuzhou did not respond, she went forward to pull Yun Chuzhou. She did not expect that the hot soup bowl in Yun Chuzhou's hand was accidentally spilled by Lan Xiang. Yun Chuzhou stepped back, a bowl of hot soup was poured on Lan Xiang's hands and clothes. Although the soup was not particularly hot, Lan Xiang was also very embarrassed. She was so angry that she gritted her teeth. "You bitch! Go back and wash my clothes right now, or I will not forgive you." A middle-aged woman could not stand it anymore. She said unhappily, "Lan Xiang, you have gone too far. It was not on purpose at dawn. Besides, if you did not pull her, why would she be so scared that she dropped the soup bowl? Moreover, she has been working for a whole day. How can she eat so little?" The middle-aged woman was Manager Sun, who was in charge of the dining hall. Although Lan Xiang hated her for meddling in other people's business, she didn't dare to talk back. She glared at Yun Chuzhou and said, "If you have the ability, don't go back to the dormitory tonight." Humph. After Lan Xiang said that, she left. Yun Chuzhou said to the middle-aged woman, "Thank you, Manager Sunday." Manager Sun sighed, shook his head and didn't say anything. After Yun Chuzhou had her fill, she walked out of the canteen and slowly walked towards the dormitory. Some of the maids in the canteen looked at Yun Chuzhou gloatingly. They did not hold back their discussion. "Lan Xiang is really angry. When we go back, we will definitely teach her a lesson." Do you even need to say that? However, who asked her to act so inappropriately? No matter how glorious she was in the past, it's useless. Now that her face and voice have been destroyed, she will never be able to make a name for herself in this lifetime. Only Manager Sun has a kind heart. Why should such a person care about her? She should die early and be reborn early. Yun Chuzhou's lowered eyes were filled with a fierce look. Even if the original Dawn was not raped or killed, she would probably break down sooner or later after being subjected to such cold words. These people were really cold and vicious to the extreme. Just as Yun Chuzhou was thinking about it, she could not help but fall behind by a large margin. A sigh came from behind. Yun Chuzhou turned around and saw that it was Manager Sunday. Yun Chuzhou quickly said, "Manager Sun, thank you so much for today." Manager Sun waved his hand. "It's nothing. Miss Dawn, you have to look forward. Just endure it. You can sleep at my place tonight. Otherwise, if you go back, I'm afraid Lan Xiang will torture you." Yun Chuzhou thought about it. If not, it would be bad if she could not help but play with that idiot to death. So she nodded gratefully. Then he'll have to trouble Manager Sunday. Manager Sun heard Yun Chuzhou's voice, which sounded like she was sawing wood. He couldn't help but sigh in his heart. A good girl was tortured to this state because of a groundless crime. It was really pitiful. Yun Chuzhou followed Manager Sun to a courtyard. This courtyard was much bigger than Lan Xiang's. After the two entered the courtyard, they heard a young boy's voice saying, "Mother, you're back." Yun Chuzhou was stunned. She saw a thin youth in the courtyard. He looked to be about 14 or 15 years old. The youth was holding a walking stick in his right hand. It was obvious that there was something wrong with his right leg. The youth saw Yun Chuzhou was stunned. He nodded at her and said, "Sister Dawn." Yun Chuzhou did not know the youth's name. She could only nod her head in a friendly manner as a greeting. Manager Sun took out some food from his storage ring and handed it to the young man. "Ziheng, eat while it's hot. You didn't get sick again today, right?" Ziheng revealed a faint smile. "Mother, my illness is much better. It's been a long time since I got sick again. Aren't you worried too much?" Manager Sun sighed. "Silly child, how can I not worry about you? Your illness is getting more and more dangerous every time." Sigh. "All right, hurry up and eat. I'll bring Sister Dawn to wash up. Manager's son took out some hot water from his storage ring and said to Yun Chujio, I'll go out to eat with Ziheng. You can wash up. Yun Chujio thanked Manager Sunday. After Manager Sun went out, she simply washed her hands and neck. Naturally, she could not wash her face, or else it would be a waste of time to fake it. When Yun Chujio went out, Ziheng had already eaten dinner. The mother and son sat on the stone bench, chatting and laughing. It was very warm. Yun Chujio's tense bowstring could not help but relax a little. Indeed, there were good people and bad people everywhere. Manager Sun and his son seemed to be kind-hearted people. Manager Sun, I have finished washing up. Thank you, Yun Chujio said in a hoarse voice. You don't have to be so polite. If you hadn't helped me say something, Madam would not have allowed me to bring Ziheng to work in the canteen. Of course, Yun Chujio didn't know that there was such a thing in the past, so she could only muddle through it. She sat on the stone chair and chatted with the mother and son. When the three of them were chatting happily, Ziheng suddenly covered his chest. His eyes became as red as blood, and traces of lines appeared on his face. It was very strange. Ziheng fell to the ground with a plop and began to twitch. Manager Sun cried out in shock, Ziheng, Ziheng. Manager Sun put his right hand into Ziheng's mouth, afraid that he would bite his tongue. Ziheng should have lost his mind. Manager Sun's hand was immediately bitten until it was dripping with blood. Manager Sun still did not take his hand out. Yun Chujio could not help but feel her heart tremble. This was motherly love, right? He would rather get hurt than let his child get hurt. Should I help them? This Ziheng did not look like he was suffering from epilepsy. Instead, he looked like the kind of person she had seen in an ancient book. Yun Chujio gritted her teeth, but she still could not harden her heart. She took out a heaven-grade soul-cleansing pill from her storage ring and handed it to Manager Sunday. She said, Manager Sun, give this to Ziheng to take. Manager Sun was stunned. However, he knew that this pill was not an ordinary one when he smelled the rich medicinal fragrance. He made up his mind and took the pill and fed it to Ziheng. After Ziheng consumed the pill, he slowly regained his consciousness and gradually stopped twitching. Miss Dawn, thank you very much. We will definitely repay you for today's great kindness in the future. Manager Sun's eyes reddened and tears flowed down. Yun Chujio shook her head. It's nothing. It's just a pill. Let's take care of Ziheng first. Yun Chujio successfully shifted Manager Sun's attention to Ziheng. Manager Sun helped Ziheng to sit on the stone chair. Ziheng was very calm as if he had never experienced a life-and-death disaster. Yun Chujio had a whole new level of respect for this skinny young man. He had lost a leg and was seriously ill. She did not expect him to be so calm. Was he able to see through life and death? When Manager Sun went to wash up, the young man asked softly, Who are you? Where is Sister Dawn? Yun Chujio was not too surprised. This young man was not as simple as he looked. She whispered, Dawn was killed by someone. I entered by mistake. Don't worry, I have no ill intentions towards you and your mother. The young man looked sad. I knew Sister Dawn would not live past yesterday. As expected. Yun Chujio's eyes immediately lit up. Oh my, I've picked up a treasure. Could it be that he was a little fraud? Right, according to the ancient books, the characteristics of his illness just now were in line with the characteristics of a spirit master. When this little baby grew up, it would be a big treasure. She had to invest in this potential stock. Then did you calculate that you would meet a noble like me? Yun Chujio said with a smile. Although Ziheng couldn't see Yun Chujio's face, he could see a bit of treachery in Yun Chujio's eyes. He said indifferently, You are indeed my noble, but I can't calculate your origin and fate. Perhaps my fire hasn't reached the level yet. Before your mother comes out, keep these pills well. Although your spirit master Yen has violated the Tian Dao and will inevitably be punished, these pills can at least protect your little life for the time being. In addition, your leg will definitely recover. Aren't you a little excited? Yun Chujiu said with a smile. Ziheng's eyes were also filled with a trace of excitement. After keeping the pills, he said, "Thank you. In order to repay you, I'll give you a prophecy. The day after tomorrow, something big will happen. The Lord is very fierce." Yun Chujiu was stunned. The day after tomorrow? Wouldn't the day after tomorrow be the day Qin Mingzhu and Yin Xuecheng were engaged? How could the day of the wedding be very fierce? Is there a way to solve it? Yun Chujiu stared at Ziheng and asked. I can only predict what will happen, but I can't solve it. Ziheng's expression was still indifferent. This kid should not be lying to her. Fierce. What kind of thing would turn a happy event into a fierce thing? Just as Yun Chujiu was puzzled, Ziheng added, although the main event is terrible, there are variables. The final result depends on that variable. Yun Chujiu immediately said shamelessly, that variable is me, right? Right? Ziheng's eyes twitched. Ever since he found out that he had the talent to predict good and bad, he had been calm. However, it was the first time he met such a shameless person. What right did he have to say that he was a variable? You are too shameless. Who do you think you are? How could a person at the 6th level of the spirit sect become a variable for such a huge disaster? However, her appearance might really be a variable because he could not calculate anything about her, whether in the past or in the future. How could this be possible? When Yun Chujiu wanted to ask again, Manager Sun came out after washing up. Yun Chujiu did not say anything else. The three of them chatted for a while, and Manager Sun brought Yun Chujiu into the bedroom while Ziheng went into the side room. Miss Dawn, thank you so much for today. If anything happens to Ziheng, I have no meaning to live. Manager Sun said while wiping away his tears. This chapter is a preview. If you want to see a faster and more up-to-date chapter, please visit for more content. Manager Sun, you don't have to worry too much. A good person will have his fortune. Ziheng will definitely be fine. He will have a bright future in the future. Yun Chujiu added secretly. She was waiting for her to lure him into her pirate ship. He would naturally have a bright future. Spiritual Master Yen, TSK, she had finally found a treasure. It was said that Spiritual Master Yen might not appear once in tens of thousands of years, but she had actually met him. Her luck was really out of this world. Manager Sun sighed when he heard that. Miss Dawn, to be honest, I don't expect anything earth-shattering from Ziheng. As long as he is safe and sound, I will be satisfied as a mother. Yun Chujiu nodded and sighed in her heart. What a pity for parents. However, where were her terrible foster parents and her biological parents who did not know who they were? The two of them chatted for a while more before they put out the candles and went to bed. Yun Chujiu waited until Manager Sun fell asleep before she took out her voice transmission talisman. However, she was disappointed that there was still no response. Could it be that she couldn't even do it in the dormitory area? Yun Chujiu thought of the terrible incident that Ziheng had mentioned. Her head was spinning rapidly. What exactly would happen? Yun Chujiu's head was hurting from thinking. She couldn't think of any clues, so she simply stopped thinking and closed her eyes to sleep. The next morning, Manager Sun woke Yun Chujiu up. The two of them washed up and went to the canteen. As soon as they arrived at the canteen, they saw Lan Xiang coming up to them with two big dark circles under her eyes. Dawn, where did you go last night? You didn't even come home last night. I have already reported it to Manager Lu. Just wait to be punished. Thank you for your concern, Sister Lan Xiang. I stayed at Manager Sun's place last night. Yun Chujio said submissively. Lan Xiang was stunned. She originally thought that Yun Chujio was with Chu Hu last night. She didn't expect that she would go to Manager Sun's place. Manager Sun, this damn woman, really meddled in other people's business. No wonder her son's leg was crippled. This was karma. With Manager Sun's protection and the fact that the big kitchen was especially busy today, Manager Lu only scolded Yun Chujio a few times before asking her to hurry up and start the fire. Yun Chujio was initially worried that Chu Hu would come and find trouble with her again, but she did not expect Chu Hu to only glare at her when he came to fetch the food. He did not ask her to deliver the food again. Yun Chujio heaved a sigh of relief in her heart. Although she wanted to kill Chu Hu to avenge Dawn, now was not the time. It would be terrible if she was exposed. Just as Yun Chujio heaved a sigh of relief, she did not expect someone to say from outside the canteen, "Dawn, Miss wants to see you. Come with me." Yun Chujio's head buzzed. Fuck, whatever she was afraid of came true. Qin Mingzhu, that little bitch, was as smart as a monkey with a tail. If she was in front of her, she would definitely be exposed. What should she do? Dawn, do you want to die? Come out quickly. The people outside seemed to be impatient from waiting. Yun Chujio had no choice but to walk out of the canteen. A beautiful maid stood outside. When she saw Yun Chujio coming out, she was stunned. She pursed her lips. Io, the great beauty from back then actually had such a dusty face. She doesn't even dare to show her face. That's right, if you show your face, I'm afraid you'll scare people to death. Let's see how you can seduce people this time. Let's go, the eldest miss specifically asked to see you. She'll definitely reward you with a lot of good things. Although Yun Chujio really didn't want to follow them, she couldn't think of any good ideas at the moment. She could only follow the maid and leave the dining hall obediently. This chapter is a preview. If you want to see a faster and more up-to-date chapter, please visit for more content. Dawn, what are you waiting for? Could it be that you don't want to see the young miss? Humph. You ungrateful thing. If it wasn't for the young miss' kindness, a slut like you would have been cut into 1,000 pieces. The maid did not know what kind of grudge she had with Dawn. Her words were extremely humiliating. Yun Chujio thought that she was listening to the barking of a dog and kept thinking of ways to escape. She definitely could not go to see Qin Mingzhu. After seeing her, there was a 99% chance that she would be exposed. If she was recognized by Qin Mingzhu, she would definitely kill her. However, how could she escape? Feign illness? Unless she was dead, this maid would definitely not let it go. How about she knock this little bitch unconscious and activate the concealment talisman? No, this was too risky. The concealment talisman had no effect on people with spiritual venerable cultivation. Just as Yun Chujio was thinking of a way to escape, she heard the maid say with ill intentions, "Dawn, do you know why the young miss is looking for you?" Yun Chujio shook her head. "I don't know." The servant girl heard Yun Chujio's rough voice. She could not help but twitch her lips. Her voice is really unpleasant. You'd better stop talking. To tell you the truth, Miss is preparing to give you to the new son-in-law. This is a great thing. You don't have to return to this canteen anymore. After the engagement, you can follow the son-in-law. Yun Chujio was stunned. This Qin Mingzhu was really crazy. Giving her fiancé a disfigured maid with a ruined voice. Yin Xuecheng would probably be so angry that he would vomit blood. She did not know how this Dayo offended Qin Mingzhu. According to Yin Zucheng's temper, he would definitely kill Dayo when he saw Qin Mingzhu giving him such a maid. The maid continued to say proudly, "Dayo, are you so happy that you're stupid? Such a good thing shouldn't have happened to you, but who told you to be the most trusted servant girl of the young miss? If the young miss has something good, she would naturally think of you." Yun Chujio sneered in her heart. Something good? It was likely that Qin Mingzhu wanted to torture this Dawn properly. Instead of killing him all at once, she had to torture him in all sorts of ways. How vicious. Yun Chujio was frowning when she saw Chu Hu walking towards her. She suddenly had an idea. She raised her voice and said to the servant girl, "Young miss, are you really going to give me to the son-in-law?" "Humph. What? Are you a slut? Let's go. After meeting the young miss, you can go and serve the son-in-law tonight." The servant girl said disdainfully, but there was a hint of jealousy in her words. Yun Chujio felt that the servant girl's brain was probably not working. Could it be that she also wanted to serve Yin Xuechen? Wasn't she afraid that the little bitch, Qin Mingzhu, would do her? How stupid. Chu Hu clearly heard the conversation between the two of them, and his eyes revealed a malicious and cold light. "Zhu Shan, what did you say just now?" "Junior sister wants to give daybreak to Yin Xuechen." When the servant girl, Zhu Shan, saw that it was Chu Hu, she said gently, "Senior brother Chu Hu, you are right. The eldest miss wants to give this bitch to her son-in-law." Chu Hu was indifferent to Zhu Shan's flattery and looked at Yun Chujio. He saw that Yun Chujio's eyes were no longer submissive, but full of provocation and contempt. Chu Hu was instantly angry. "Zhu Shan, I have something to tell Xiao Xiao. I will explain it to junior sister. Xiao Xiao, come with me." Chu Hu did not wait for Zhu Shan to react and dragged Yun Chujio away. Zhu Shan stomped her feet angrily and had to go back to report to Qin Mingzhu. This chapter is a preview. If you want to see a faster and more up-to-date chapter, please visit for more content. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.